At the end of the Christmas prayer, just as everyone whispered amen, my stepmother reached for me. My father hissed, "Guests are still here." He had no idea I'd brought more than just a gift. I'd brought the truth. All of it. Lit up in stained glass. They planned a pretty dinner. I planned a reveal. My name is Marin Keaton. I am 29 years old, and for the first time in 8 years, I am standing in my father's foyer for Christmas. The drive up the coast to Cedar Harbor was a predictable assault of memory. The salt air is the same, still sharp enough to sting the back of my throat, carrying the damp, resinous scent of the pines that crowd the hills. It's the smell of my childhood, of crab pots and low tide. But the moment I cross the threshold of this house, that clean, wild scent is suffocated. The air inside this house is different. It is manufactured. It is the smell of lemon oil rubbed into antique wood and the heavy, expensive scent of beeswax used to polish the floors. It is the smell of constant maintenance, of surfaces scrubbed and polished to erase any trace of the hands that touch them, any sign of life. It is the smell of Vivian. I am a stained glass artist. My life in New York is spent in a dusty studio overlooking a brick wall. My hands are perpetually calloused from the grinder. My fingernails permanently stained with copper foil and black patina in ways that never fully wash out. Here, in this immaculate house, my own hands feel rough and intrusive. As I rest my hand on the grand banister, my fingertips catch on the glacial smoothness of the mahogany. I look past the staircase, down the hall to the dining room. It is already a stage set for a masterpiece of domesticity. Heirloom plates, the ones with the impossibly fragile gold rims that I was never allowed to touch as a child, are stacked in perfect, gleaming towers. Silverware, heavy and ornate, is aligned with a geometric precision that speaks of rulers and measuring tapes. I can hear the muffled sounds from the kitchen, the clatter of pans muted by a thick, closed door, and the high, brittle clink of crystal being organized for the guests. It is not a happy sound. It's the sound of thin ice cracking under pressure, a quiet, precise warning of the cold, dark water just beneath the surface. My father, Derek Keaton, is in the living room. He is the man who built this town, or at least the respectable, visible parts of it. Harborline Build, his mid-sized contracting firm, is a name synonymous with integrity and quality. Its logo, a stylized anchor merging into a solid roofline, is branded onto new construction sites, charity fun-run banners, and the new wing of the local hospital. His reputation is sterling, forged in committee meetings, church leadership boards, and what everyone in Cedar Harbor calls Keaton quality. He is a good man. The town agrees. A pillar of the community. He stands by the fireplace, adjusting his tie, talking to my brother. He hasn't seen me enter. Vivian Cross, my stepmother, sees everything. She always sees me first. She materializes from the dining room, a whisper of motion in winter white cashmere that looks softer than it is. Her pearls, tasteful and perfectly round, rest against her collarbone. They are luminous, as if they generate their own cold, internal light. As she approaches, her perfume precedes her. Winter rose, a scent I despise. It's the smell of flowers that have been dried too long, brittle and airless. The scent of a room that is never aired out, where everything is preserved but nothing is alive. She is the curator of this museum, and she misses no detail. I have watched her, over the years, straighten a guest's tie without asking, subtly shift a floral arrangement that was a quarter-inch off-center. Later tonight, I know she will be monitoring the room, cataloging who laughs at her jokes, who compliments the wine, and even the way people hold their forks. Every detail is an asset or a liability. "Marin," she says, her smile is a perfect, painted curve that does not, and has never, reached her eyes. "You made it. We were starting to worry about the time." "The roads were clear," I say. My voice sounds flat in the acoustically perfect hall. "Your coat," she says, her gaze flickering over the worn, dark wool. It is not an offer to take it. It is a command to make it disappear. It is too real, too worn for this pristine environment. It speaks of subways and city grit, not of coastal elegance. I move toward the coat closet, an alcove of shadows by the door. I stop. The main windows in the living room are new. They weren't here 8 years ago. They are elaborate, leaded glass panels, depicting a muted, tasteful coastal scene, a single sailboat, a distant lighthouse, stylized waves. This is Vivian's idea of art. Safe, expensive, and impersonal. Most people would see the light, how it bends through the textured glass, throwing fractured oblongs of pale yellow and muted blue across the immaculate hardwood floor. I see something else. I am trained to see something else. I see the seams. I see the heavy, dark lines of the lead came, the skeleton beneath the pretty picture. I see the stress points, the places where the glass is ill-fitted, where the weight is not properly distributed. I see the repair work near the bottom right corner, a clumsy, thick line of new solder, too gray against the dark patina, where one panel was clearly replaced. I can't unsee the weaknesses. I know exactly how much pressure, applied in exactly the right spot, it would take to shatter the entire facade. The light isn't beautiful, it's just fractured, broken into manageable pieces before it's allowed to enter the room. My coat, the one Vivian dismissed, suddenly feels impossibly heavy on my shoulders. I stand at the closet door, my hand on the cold brass knob. The draft from the entryway still clings to me, a pocket of real, cold air in this climate-controlled house. It triggers the memory. It's not a full, cinematic recollection, it's a flash impression, a sensory spike, sharp as a shard of glass. The feeling of this same hallway, but silent, a heavy, suffocating silence that pressed down harder and more painfully than any shout ever could. The cloying smell of winter rose from Vivian's room at the top of the stairs. The sight of my father's back, rigid in his armchair, as he stared into the fireplace, refusing to turn, refusing to speak. It was the silence that finally broke me. I remember the sudden, chilling clarity, the realization that I was invisible, that my voice was a frequency they had chosen not to hear. I remember walking to this very door. My hands weren't shaking then. They were perfectly still. I remember the paralyzing shock of the December air hitting my thin sweater. I left without a coat. I didn't own one I valued, and I could not stand to take anything that Vivian had purchased, not even for warmth. I just walked, my single car key digging a crescent moon into my palm, until the cold made my teeth ache and my lungs burn. No one came after me. The silence of the house simply sealed itself behind me, like water closing over a stone, erasing the ripple. "You're here!" The voice is a small, sharp blade that cuts through the memory. I turn, my breath held. Lila, my half-sister. She's 17 now, no longer the child I left behind. She's all long limbs and nervous energy, a hummingbird trapped in a glass box. She rushes me, throwing her arms around my waist in a hug that is all sharp angles and desperate, trembling strength. It's an embrace that already anticipates its ending, a theft of affection. She squeezes hard, burying her face in the wool of my shoulder for 1, 2, 3 seconds, and then pulls back just as quickly. Her eyes, our father's eyes, dart toward the living room, checking. Vivian's gaze is a tether, and Lila knows exactly how much slack she has. Affection has a time limit under this roof. "I missed you," she whispers. It's a conspiracy, a dangerous admission. "I missed you too, Lee." I want to say more. I want to tell her she looks taller, stronger, that I got her postcards, that I kept every single one. But Vivian is watching, her polite smile fixed on us, and the moment evaporates. Lila smooths her sweater and steps back, her posture shifting, becoming smaller, folding back into the household rules. My brother, Grant, approaches next, cutting off any further exchange. He's 31, the heir apparent to Harborline build, already wearing the uniform of a man who lunches, a pressed blazer and an easy smile. He has our father's height, but none of his quiet gravity. Grant is a professional smiler, his geniality a well-sanded, heavily varnished shield. He gives me the standard sibling side hug, all shoulder and no heart, smelling faintly of expensive aftershave and gin. Marin, good to see you. New York treating you well? It's treating me, I say. Heard you're doing big things with that glass stuff. Very artisanal. He uses the word like it's something he discovered on a menu, something quaint and slightly amusing. It pays the bills, I reply. It's the old, easy deflection. Good, good, he nods, but he's already looking past me, toward the doorway, checking the time on the grandfather clock in the hall. Grant is a master of conversational driftwood, floating on the surface, never touching the depths. We will not talk about the 8 years. We will not talk about the night I left without a coat. We will talk about the weather, the rebounding market, and the local high school football team's chances next season. His distance is a different kind of silence than our father's. It's not heavy. It's empty. It's the sound of a door being gently, but firmly, locked. Derek, my father, finally moves. He sees the three of us standing there and the tableau breaks. He claps Grant on the shoulder, a gesture that is both affectionate and dismissive, and walks over. His expression is a complicated, painful mix of relief and anxiety. Marin, you're just in time. Everyone's arriving soon. Everyone? I ask, though I already know. Oh, you know, he gestures vaguely, unable to meet my eyes for more than a second. Vivian invited a few friends for the Christmas prayer. I know what a few friends means. It means Vivian's favorite audience. This is not a family reunion. It is a curated event. It means donors to her meticulously managed charities, the ones with her name on the letterhead and her picture in the local paper. It means the elders from the church, who believe Harborline Build is a direct blessing from God, its success a sign of His divine favor. And most importantly, it means local officials. I can already picture the guest list. Pastor Hale, of course, the head of the Cedar Arts Board, who Vivian is courting for a new sculpture garden bearing her name, and, I would bet my entire studio, the city inspector who signs off on Harborline's permits with reassuring speed. This isn't a family dinner, it's a performance. It's a recital of their own goodness, and they've gathered a crowd for the applause. I brought the lantern, I say, my voice cutting through his discomfort. I nod toward the porch, where the delivery van left it an hour ago, as instructed. Through the new leaded glass sidelights, they can all see it. A long, thin, imposing wooden crate, taller than I am, built of raw pine. It's stenciled in plain black letters. Nativity Lantern, Fragile. Oh, wonderful! Vivian claps her hands lightly, a brittle, dry sound that sets my teeth on edge. For the church pageant tomorrow, Pastor Hale will be so thrilled. Derek, Grant, be useful. Bring it into the study, carefully, now. My father and brother, relieved to have a task, a physical thing to manage instead of an emotional one, oblige. They maneuver the heavy crate through the doorway, their movements careful. They handle it with the reverence reserved for expensive, holy objects. They assume it's a gift, a peace offering, my prodigal contribution to the image of the perfect, devout, artistic Keaton family. They set it in the corner of the living room, near the flawless, fractured windows. It stands like a silent sentinel, a dark, plain wooden box against the pale, perfect walls. Everyone looks at it and sees a nativity. They see piety. They see a daughter's return. I see something else. I see the mechanism. I see the wires. I see the seams. I let Vivian steer me toward the dining room, her hand light and proprietary on my elbow, a gesture of ownership, of placing me where I belong in her composition. She points out the new silver, the refinished floors, the imported rug. She is showing me the strength of this house, the permanence of her reign. But I am not looking at the floors. I am not looking at the silver. I am looking at the light. I am looking at the way it wants to come in, and how this house twists it, breaks it, and scatters it to suit its own needs. They think I came back for Christmas. They think I came back to make peace, to finally be the dutiful daughter Vivian can display. They think I am a broken piece of glass she can finally fit into her perfect mosaic. They are wrong. Tonight, this house will tell the truth. It will tell its secrets in the only language I trust anymore. Tonight, the house will tell the truth, through glass and light. My craft is about managing fractures. It is the art of taking what is shattered and deciding its future. You start with a sheet of colored glass, beautiful and whole, and you introduce the first break. You score a line with a blade, a whisper of pressure, and then you snap it. The sound is clean, definitive. A choice has been made. From there, you are left with shards, jagged edges, sharp angles, pieces that no longer fit together. My work is to decide which pieces to keep, which to discard, and how to join the ones that remain. I choose what to bind together and what to leave broken. I wrap the edges of each chosen shard in thin copper foil, meticulously folding and burnishing the metal until it adheres, creating a new, pliable edge. Then, with a soldering iron hot enough to blind, I melt lead and tin into the seams, transforming the copper into a strong, dark line of silver gray. It is a violent process, controlled by a steady hand, fire and flux and poison, all to create a bond, to turn a collection of brokenness into an image, into something that can hold light. I learned the necessity of this craft long before I learned the technique. My hands remember the chill of the vinyl-covered benches in the Cedar Harbor juvenile court halls. That place had its own specific scent, layered and grim, old floor wax, the metallic tang of radiator dust, and underneath it all, the pervasive, acidic smell of burnt coffee from a perpetually half-empty pot on a clerk's desk. The light was always fluorescent, humming and pale, making everyone look sick and green. I remember the forms, endless stacks of forms, cheap paper on clipboards. They were forms with boxes that decided, in their impersonal, bureaucratic way, where a teenager sleeps. I sat on those benches, a child defined by check marks, at risk, ungovernable, family conflict. None of the boxes said unwanted. None of them said erased. My father, Derek Keaton, sat beside me, his face a mask of strained patience, as if I were a complex contracting problem, a sudden zoning issue he was being forced to navigate on his day off. Vivian was not there. It was not good for her image to be seen in a place where families had so visibly failed. When the magistrate finally spoke my name, it was Ari and Helena Rhodes who stood up. They owned Rhodes Atelier, a dusty, glorious cavern of a studio tucked away on the other side of the harbor, the side Vivian pretended didn't exist. It smelled of rosin, hot metal, and the earthy dampness of plaster molds. Ari, a man built like a barrel with hands gentle enough to mend a butterfly's wing, had been my high school art teacher for one semester before I dropped out. Helena was his wife, tall and severe as a church spire, with eyes that saw every flaw and every possibility. They took me in, at 16 years old. I was given a cot in their back room, surrounded by leaning sheets of glass in 1,000 colors, and I was put to work. They did not coddle me. They did not try to fix me. They handed me a glass cutter and a sheet of cheap, clear practice glass. "Don't press too hard," Ari warned. "You're not trying to kill it. You're just showing it where to break." The work was demanding. The heat of the soldering iron was unforgiving, leaving small, pale marks on my knuckles. The glass edges were sharp, catching my fingers on pieces I had failed to grind smooth. I learned to cut, foil, and solder without flinching, because flinching was a luxury. Flinching meant you ruined the line, wasted the glass, or felt that sharp heat again. My hands, once soft and useless, became a map of my education. They became tools. Helena was the one who taught me about light. She was a restorer, brought in to save century-old church windows that had buckled under their own weight. One afternoon, I was helping her on a large panel, complaining about an original crack, a hairline fracture in a deep cobalt blue that I thought ruined the piece. I wanted to replace it. Helena stopped me, her hand closing over mine. We never erase the cracks. Marin, she said. Her voice was as firm and clear as annealed glass. The crack is part of its history. It tells the story. You don't hide it. You don't erase it. You line it in light. She showed me how to stabilize the crack, how to use the lead line not as a patch, but as a feature, incorporating the break into the design itself. The crack, once a flaw, became the central vein of a leaf, the shadow on a robe. It became intentional. It became the truth. From them, I learned the geometry of survival. Measure twice, trust once, trust the glass to break where you score it. Trust the heat to flow where you guide it. Trust no one who tells you a story that feels too smooth, too polished, too perfect. Look for the seams. Look for the repairs. Look for the cracks they are trying to hide. I lived at the atelier for 2 years, until I was 18 and left for New York, but the lines of communication with my old life were never entirely cut. They were just curated. Every year, without fail, usually in the second week of December, Vivian's curated holiday newsletter would arrive at my shared Brooklyn apartment, forwarded by some dutiful cousin. They were glossy, heavy cardstock, professionally printed. The front was always a perfect photograph. Derek, Vivian, Grant, and Lila, coordinated in tasteful seasonal colors, burgundy, forest green, cream. They were always smiling, always thriving. Inside, Vivian's prose was a masterpiece of selective narrative. Derek's Harborline build was honored this year. Grant has taken on a leadership role. Lila is blossoming, first chair in the school orchestra. We are so blessed. It was glossy, undeniable evidence that Marin Keaton did not exist. I was not mentioned, not once in 8 years, not as a daughter in New York, not as an artist, not even as an absence. I was not a crack to be lined in light. I was a shard to be swept up and thrown away, erased so the new, perfect window could be installed. The newsletters were not for connection. They were a message. They were a reminder of my non-existence, a yearly renewal of my expulsion. But there was another, secret current. Lila's postcards. They started about a year after I left. They were flimsy, cheap cardstock from the local drugstore, the kind with a picture of the Cedar Harbor Lighthouse on the front. The messages were short, breathless, and written in a teenage scrawl that matured over the years. Saw a blue heron today. History test was awful. Grant's new car is stupid. They were never signed with her name. She was too smart for that, too well versed in Vivian's surveillance. They were always signed the same way. From the blue bedroom, my old bedroom, which Vivian had repainted in a sterile shade of beige within a month of my departure, but which Lila, in this small, fierce act of rebellion, still called by its true name. These postcards were my anchor. They were proof that I was remembered, that the erasure was not total. They were small, bright fragments of truth in the glossy, suffocating lie of Vivian's world. They kept me anchored to the town I swore to forget. And then there was my father. Derek did not write. He did not call. But on my birthday, every single year, a deposit would appear in my bank account. It was never a sentimental amount. It was always a practical, calculated sum. $500, enough to matter, not enough to be generous. It wasn't a gift. It was an invoice he was paying, a line item in his budget. The transfer memo was always the same, 3 words, for supplies. He thought he was funding my hobby, my glass thing, as Grant called it. He thought he was buying materials, sheets of glass, spools of foil, jars of patina. He had no idea what he was really purchasing. He was funding his own undoing. He was buying the tools for my investigation. He was paying for the truth. I am a meticulous artist. I waste nothing. In my studio, I have labeled bins for all my offcuts. Small triangles of cobalt, slivers of amber, jagged half-moons of ruby red, pieces too small for a main design, but too valuable to discard. You never know when you'll need that exact shard to fill a gap. I kept everything. I kept Vivian's glossy newsletters, a stack of them 8 inches high, a perfect record of her polished lies. I kept every one of Lila's postcards, a secret bundle tied in twine, a history of her quiet resistance, her coded messages from the blue bedroom, and I printed every single bank transfer receipt from my father, the black and white memos a testament to his transactional, cowardly guilt. For supplies, for supplies, for supplies. I saved them all, like offcuts in a labeled bin. They were the jagged, broken pieces of my family story, and as I looked at them, year after year, lined up on my workbench under the harsh glare of my task lamp, I saw more than just history. I saw a pattern. I saw a design. My craft is about taking what is broken and building something new, something that holds light. I looked at the shards they had given me, the erasure, the secrets, the guilt money, and I began to build. I built something from them. I built a plan. The doorbell chimes, a melodic, three-note sequence that cuts through the quiet hum of the house. It is the sound of the curtain rising. Vivian, who had been in the living room adjusting the angle of a silver picture frame, glides into the foyer. Her posture is perfect, her smile immediate and radiant. The front door opens to the damp, cold night, and the performance begins. "Pastor Hale, Merry Christmas, and Janice, you look wonderful." Pastor Hale enters, his large frame filling the doorway, bringing with him the scent of cold wool and peppermints. He is a man with a practiced, resonant voice that he never quite turns off, as if he is perpetually addressing a congregation. He is followed by a woman I don't immediately recognize, thin and bird-like, wrapped in a pashmina. "Vivian, Derek, thank you for opening your beautiful home," the pastor booms, shaking my father's hand with a politician's practiced warmth. "This must be Janice Albright," Vivian says, turning to the woman with a manufactured delight. "From the Cedar Arts Board, it is a true honor to finally meet you. I am such an admirer of your work preserving the town's murals." "Ms. Cross," Janice says, her voice a reedy contrast to the pastor's. "And please, call me Janice." As they perform the dance of greetings, another man slips in behind them, shaking the rain from his overcoat. He is shorter, built squarely, with a ruddy face and eyes that move too quickly. "And Mr. Connolly," Vivian exclaims, her voice somehow finding an even brighter, more welcoming note. "We are so glad you could make it before the dinner. I know how busy the city offices are." Mr. Connolly, the city inspector whose name I have seen on dozens of documents, gives a laugh that is half a cough. "Wouldn't miss it. Vivian, wouldn't miss it. Derek," he nods at my father, a gesture of familiar, easy alliance, a man tied inextricably to harbor permits and expedited approvals. I remain by the coat closet, an unmoving shadow in their bright, welcoming light. I am still wearing my coat. The wool is heavy on my shoulders, a piece of armor I am not yet willing to shed. It makes me a temporary fixture, an object that does not belong, and therefore I am not yet required to participate. Vivian, having settled her prizes in the foyer, begins her recitation. It is an inventory of their moral assets, delivered as casual observation. "Pastor, you must see the new alcove in the living room," she says, gesturing. "Derek's team did the work. Of course, a little pro bono project for the Historical Society. He's just so committed to preserving the town's charm." "Wonderful, wonderful," Pastor Hale murmurs, already impressed. "And Grant has been just tireless with the new youth leadership program. We're so proud. He's really channeling his energy into the community." She beams at Grant, who stands beside our father, smiling his agreeable, empty smile. "A fine young man," the pastor agrees. "And Mr. Connolly," Vivian continues, turning her high-wattage smile on the inspector, "Derek was just saying how smoothly the permitting process went for the new community center annex. Your office is a model of efficiency. It's so rare to see that kind of public-private cooperation." "We do our best, Vivian, we do our best," Connolly says, puffing up slightly. The conversation moves, a small, self-congratulatory cloud, into the living room. I am left in the wake, a silent observer, but not for long. Vivian has not forgotten me. She has simply been deciding where to place me in her scene. "Oh, and you must all meet Derek's eldest," she calls out, her voice a silver bell. "Marin, you remember Pastor Hale?" The heads turn. The smiles freeze, becoming inquisitive. I am the anomaly, the piece that doesn't fit. I feel their eyes cataloging me. The worn coat, the city pallor, the hands jammed into my pockets. "Marin," Pastor Hale says, his smile recalibrating. "My goodness, it has been many years. Welcome home." "Pastor," I nod. "Janice, this is Marin," Vivian continues, her hand making a small, dismissive gesture, as if introducing a piece of quaint, local trivia. "She's an artist in New York. She does that glass thing." Janice Albright's eyes sharpen with actual interest, the first genuine expression I've seen. "Oh? Stained glass? How fascinating. Your work, is it traditional or more contemporary?" I feel the familiar pull. The questions I usually answer with practiced ease, but here, the words stick. "It's structural," I say finally. "Structural?" Janice presses, intrigued. Before I can answer, Vivian laughs, a light, tinkling sound designed to cut through the conversation. "It's all very rustic," she says, supplying the adjective for the room. She brought a piece for the church pageant, so thoughtful. She dismisses my entire career and frames my presence as a simple act of charity in 2 sentences. "Are you showing in any galleries?" Janice asks, ignoring Vivian's interruption. "I follow the Chelsea scene somewhat. I'd love to know if I've seen your name." "I have a few collectors," I say, the words vague. I will not give them my name to be Googled, to be consumed and judged by this audience. I will not hand them that small piece of myself. "A few serious collectors, I heard," Grant chimes in, attempting to be helpful, but only succeeding in putting a price tag on it, the only metric he understands. "Oh, I'm sure it's a wonderful hobby," Vivian says, her voice dripping with finality. She pats Janice's arm. "Now, you must try the mulled cider, Lila. Be a dear and help our guests." The microneedles are so fine they are almost invisible, but I feel every single one. Rustic, the glass thing, a hobby. She is painting me into a corner, framing me as a harmless, slightly eccentric child, still playing with her crafts. It is the only way she can manage my presence. I look past her to my father. Derek is a portrait of nervous energy. He is not listening to the conversation. He is checking the grandfather clock in the hall. He checks it. Then 30 seconds later, his eyes flicker back to its face, as if he can will the hands to move faster, to get this part of the evening over with. His hand keeps going to his left cuff, his thumb and forefinger pinching the small, gold ovals. Those cufflinks, they were his father's. Heavy, 1940s gold, engraved with the original Harbor Line logo, a simple H&B. They are the symbols of his inheritance, the physical proof of the line that runs from his father, to him, to Grant. They are heirlooms that never belonged to me, objects I was never even allowed to touch. They are the weight of the family, and tonight, they seem to be weighing him down. He touches them, over and over, as if to reassure himself that the lineage is still intact, that the name is still solid. His anxiety is a high-pitched hum in the room, almost audible beneath the polite chatter. Lila, released by Vivian's command, moves from the kitchen with a tray of cider. She is pale, her movements quick and bird-like, just like Janice Albright. But where Janice is sharp, Lila is brittle. She navigates the small crowd, offering the steaming mugs. Her eyes meet mine only once, a quick, terrified flash, and then she looks away. She passes me, heading toward Pastor Hale. As she does, her body brushes mine, a seemingly clumsy misstep. "Oh, sorry," she murmurs, her head down. But I feel it. A small, sharp-cornered object pressed into the palm of my hand, the one still deep in my coat pocket. It is a piece of paper, folded multiple times into a tight, Small square. I close my fingers around it, the paper crinkling faintly. My other hand, the one holding my phone, feels cold. Lila doesn't look back. She offers the cider to the pastor, her hand trembling so slightly that only someone looking for it would see. I keep my hand in my pocket, the sharp edges of the paper digging into my skin. I don't look down. I wait. I wait until the group has turned back toward the fireplace, drawn in by one of Derek's anecdotes about the harbor's history. I slip my hand out of my pocket, keeping the paper shielded in my palm. I unfold it slowly, just enough to see. It's a folded church program from tonight's Christmas prayer, but inside, drawn in blue ballpoint pen, is a tiny, crude map, a rectangle, a smaller rectangle labeled furnace, a dotted line, and a small X in the corner, labeled with a single word, Bethlehem. A map of the basement, a map to the locked file cabinet my sister's postcards had whispered about. My breath catches. I fold the paper and slide it back into my pocket, this time alone. So that's the famous crate, then? Grant's voice, smooth and genial, breaks my focus. He has drifted over to me, cider in hand, and is nodding toward the tall, wooden box in the corner. It stands in stark contrast to Vivian's curated perfection, a piece of the outside world, raw and functional. What's in there? Marin? Looks like you're smuggling a person, he jokes. I turn to him and let myself smile. It's a real smile. And it feels strange on my face in this house. It feels like a weapon. It's a lantern, I say, my voice clear and carrying just enough to draw the others' attention. A special one. Oh? Janice Albright says, turning back. Her interest piqued again. Yes, I continue, looking past Grant to the room at large. It's a lantern that reveals what people ignore. There is a half-second of silence. The statement hangs in the air. Too abstract, too odd. Mr. Connolly shifts his weight. Derek stops fiddling with his cufflink. Then Vivian laughs. It is a bright, dismissive trill, designed to erase the tension, to reclaim the moment. Oh, Marin, she says, walking over to loop her arm through Grant's, a gesture of solidarity. She was always dramatic, even as a child. She turns her smile to the guests, a knowing, indulgent look. It's her nativity scene for the church pageant tomorrow. Isn't that just so lovely and ambitious? She dismisses my words and claims the lantern's purpose in one breath. The room relaxes. It is just art. It is just a hobby. It is just Marin being dramatic. But my gaze is not on Vivian. It's on the large, crystal chandelier hanging above us. It's an old piece, one Vivian had restored, and it's humming, a high, thin, electrical whine, the sound of too much current being forced through old wiring, the sound of a system under strain. I catalog the room in panes of glass. Pastor Hale, standing by the fireplace, his reflection captured in the dark glass of the unlit television screen. Janice Albright, perched on the edge of a brocade armchair, her profile framed by the new, leaded glass window. Mr. Connolly, the inspector, standing too close to my father, both of them reflected in the silver tray on the sideboard, their images distorted, bent, and Vivian, in the center, always in the center, a whirlwind of cashmere, anchored by no reflection at all. I am mapping the room. I am seeing the sightlines. I am noting who stands where. I am seeing exactly who will be in the direct path of the light when it finally truly changes. My phone feels heavy and cold in my left hand. I slide my thumb across the screen, my movements small and hidden by the folds of my coat. I open a single, scheduled message. I type one word. Ready? I press send. The message disappears into the ether, a signal to Ari and Helena, who are waiting. Just as I am waiting, the first click of the tumbler, the mechanism is now in motion. Dinner, Vivian announces, is served. The plan did not begin as a plan. It began as a spark, an anonymous ember sent into the digital darkness, hoping to find dry wood. It arrived 6 months ago, not to my personal email, but to the general inquiry address on my art studio's website. The sender's name was a random string of letters. The subject line was one word: Harbor Line. Inside was a link to a cloud storage folder. It contained 24 fuzzy smartphone pictures, taken in the poorly lit skeleton of a new construction, the kind Harbor Line specialized in. The photos showed lumber stamps, joint work, and roofing materials. The sender had included a second folder containing scanned copies of the project's supply invoices. I am the daughter of a contractor. I grew up with the language. I know the difference between marine-grade plywood, specified and billed for on the invoices, and the particle board, the cheap OSB, shown in the photographs. I know what premium-grade flashing looks like, and I know the cut rate, thin-gauge aluminum I was seeing in the pictures. It was systematic, deliberate material substitution. My father, Derek Keaton, was building his sterling reputation on lies, billing for premium work and installing builder's-grade trash. I replied to the email, a simple, "Who is this?" The response came an hour later. A roofer who likes his job, or liked it, got fired last week for asking why the materials didn't match the work order. I tried to find him. I cross-referenced subcontractor lists, payrolls I could access, but he was already gone. Within a week, his name had vanished from every independent work list in Cedar Harbor. He was a ghost, erased for asking a question. But he had given me the first piece of glass, the first shard. I started digging. If my father was doing this on one job, he was doing this on all of them. But simple fraud felt too linear for Vivian. It was just theft. It wasn't elegant. I was looking for her signature, her style. I started pulling public records, tracing Harbor Line's recent projects, and I found it. A local widow, Mrs. Gable, had her nursery, a small, independent greenhouse business, rebuilt after a storm 2 winters ago. The rebuild was funded entirely by one of Vivian's pet projects, the Coastal Children's Fund, a charity she ran with an iron, manicured fist. It was a PR triumph. Photos in the Cedar Harbor Gazette, Vivian and my father in hard hats, handing the keys back to the tearfully grateful widow. 6 months after the ribbon cutting, a mid-season squall, not even a named storm, had hit the coast. The new nursery structure collapsed. It didn't just buckle, it folded in on itself. A total loss. The investigation, such as it was, concluded it was a freak wind event. The insurance covered a fraction of the cost. The widow was ruined. The most interesting part, the part that made my hands go cold in my studio, was the inspection report, the final sign-off, declaring the structure fully compliant with all coastal building codes, was dated the day before the collapse. It was signed by Mr. Connolly, the same man now standing in my father's living room, laughing at one of Grant's jokes. I followed the permits. The money from Vivian's charity had paid for the rebuild, but the payments hadn't gone to Harbor Line Build. They had gone to a designated subcontractor, a company I had never heard of, Harbor Hands. It sounded so noble, so homespun. Harbor Hands. I ran the business registration. It was a shell nonprofit. It was registered to a mailing box address at a pack-and-ship store 2 towns over. Its listed treasurer, a Mr. James P. Sullivan, did not exist. He had no driver's license, no credit history, no tax ID. He was a ghost, fabricated to sign checks. This was the mechanism. This was Vivian's art. Harbor Hands was the shield. It was the entity that officially hired Harbor Line Build. Harbor Line would submit invoices for premium, storm-rated materials. Harbor Hands would pay them. Harbor Line would then install the cheap particle board from the roofer's photographs. The difference in cost, a margin of sometimes 50 or 60%, was pure profit. But who held the pen? Who benefited? I needed the signatures. My father's signature was on every Harbor Line invoice, attesting to the quality of the materials. He was either a fool or a liar. He was signing off on the purchase of premium supplies that, as the head of the company, he had to know were never ordered, never delivered, and never installed. Grant's signature was on the nonprofit's board minutes. He was the one motioning to approve Harbor Hands as the preferred vendor for all charity-related builds. citing their competitive and community-focused bidding. He was the complicit face of the operation, the air rubber stamping the theft. And Vivian, her signature was everywhere else. It was on the gala receipts, the fundraiser appeals, the thank you letters to donors. She was the one raising the millions in charitable funds that fed the entire machine. She was the one who chose the projects, like the widow's nursery, that would be channeled through the Harbor Hands phantom. She wasn't just an accomplice. She was the architect. But the paper trail had one last, elegant detour, a flourish that was pure Vivian. The money didn't just sit in the Harbor Hands account. That would be too clumsy. After Harborline was paid, a substantial portion of the remaining profit, the laundered, stolen money, would be donated by Harbor Hands to a different, unimpeachable organization. It was sent to Pastor Hale's own Building and Benevolence Fund at the church, a donation from one nonprofit to another, clean and blessed. And then, weeks later, a near-identical sum would move from the church's discretionary fund, a fund the pastor controlled, but which Vivian, as head of the church council, co-managed, and be paid out as a grant or consulting fee to a third entity, the Cross Family Trust, Vivian's personal, inherited trust, the one that bore her maiden name. It was brilliant. It was horrifying. She was robbing the town's donors, her own husband's company, and the church itself, using Pastor Hale as an unwitting, or perhaps witting, I wasn't sure yet, filter. The money went in dirty, passed through the church, and re-emerged clean in her own private bank account. I had the digital trail, but I needed the hard copies, the checkbooks, the ledgers, the things a woman like Vivian would keep, because she was, above all, meticulous. This is where Lila's postcards became more than just an anchor. They became reports from behind enemy lines. 3 months ago, a postcard of a seagull. Vivian bought a new file cabinet for the basement. It's ugly, gray, and metal. She labeled the key Bethlehem and put it on her house keyring. 1 month ago, a postcard of the town green. She keeps the Harbor Hands checkbook in the Bethlehem drawer. I saw it when she sent me to get the warranty for the new dishwasher. Lila had given me the X on the map that was now, thanks to her sleight of hand in the foyer, resting safely in my coat pocket. So I had the evidence, all these sharp, damning shards of truth, a banker's box full of files. A lawyer could have a field day, but that wasn't enough. A quiet lawsuit, a settlement, an internal audit, that would all be handled. It would be swept under Vivian's expensive rugs. Derek would take responsibility. Grant would be disciplined, and Vivian would float above it all, untouched. No. The truth had to be public. It had to be undeniable. It had to happen in their house, in front of their audience, in a language they could not dismiss. My language. Ari Rhodes taught me to hide patterns in patterns. Anyone can make a pretty window. Marin, he'd said, his hands covered in patina. The real art is making the window tell a story the light already knows. I would not bring a box of files. I would build a lantern. The crate in the living room, the one they all think is a pious gift, is a machine. The outer panels are, as promised, a nativity, beautiful, traditional, executed in deep, jewel-toned glass, a serene Mary, a watchful Joseph, a glowing star. It is designed to make them relax, to make them smile, to make them see me as the harmless, dramatic child. But the inner panels are the secret. They are not glass. They are nested, sliding frames, each layered with high-resolution microfilm prints of the evidence, etched onto heat-resistant plates. My father's money paid for a very specialized, very expensive kind of supply. When lit in sequence, the lantern becomes a projector. But not just a projector, it is a stained glass flipbook. The remote in my pocket controls the sequence. As one panel of light slides behind another, the images will shift, overlay, and move. The light itself will become the narrator. It will create moving tableaus. The first tableau, the serene wood grain of the stable will dissolve, replaced by the text of a Harbor Line invoice for marine-grade plywood, which will then pulse and overlay onto the roofer's damning photo of brittle particle board. The second, the Star of Bethlehem will burst, its light beams forming the words Harbor Hands, and then resolving into the P.O. Box address and the forged signature of the non-existent treasurer. The third, the faces of the adoring shepherds will fade, replaced by a triptych of signatures, cross-checked and damning. Derek's on the invoices, Grant's on the board minutes, Vivian's on the gala pledges. The fourth, the finale. The light will trace the path of the money, a pulsing, golden line flowing from the Coastal Children's Fund through the Building and Benevolence Fund logo, and coming to rest, bright and undeniable, in the account ledger of the Cross Family Trust. I am an artist, but I am not a fool. I am not a child playing with fire. 3 months ago, I took this entire, assembled plan to Helena. Helena, in her infinite, severe wisdom, made one call. She brought in Marta Lane. Marta Lane is an attorney in the city who eats shell corporations for breakfast and whose billing rate is a thing of legend. She vetted every document. She confirmed the digital chain of custody. She created notarized affidavits for every piece of microfilm. She time-stamped the entire digital archive. She is the net, waiting below my tightrope. Ari and Helena are my stagehands. Marta is my muscle. The lantern standing in that living room is not just a piece of art. It is a meticulously documented, legally vetted affidavit. It is a confession booth, and the light is the priest. The chime of a small bell rings from the dining room. Vivian's signal. The guests are moving. They think they are walking to dinner. They are walking into a deposition. And I am the one taking it. We move into the dining room, a symphony in beige and gold. The air is warm and still, heavy with the scent of roasted meat and Vivian's winter rose perfume. It feels hermetically sealed, as if the windows have not been opened since the day they were installed. We take our seats, the chairs sliding with a heavy, muffled sound on the thick Persian rug. The table is a landscape of polished silver and razor-sharp creases in the linen. I am seated between Grant and Lila, directly across from Mr. Connolly. The moment everyone is settled, Vivian stands. She lifts her crystal wine glass, the facets catching the chandelier's humming light. Her pearls glow. I just want to welcome you all, she begins, her voice warm, intimate, practiced. Our dearest friends, our family, on this blessed Christmas Eve. Her eyes sweep the table, landing on each guest, a small, personal smile for each. We are so grateful to have this house, this life, so grateful for our blessings. I'd like to propose a toast. She pauses, for effect. To family, both the one we are born with and the one we choose. To faith, which guides us, and to the goodness of this house, which shelters us all. The glasses are raised. Amen, Pastor Hale booms. To the goodness of the house, Mr. Connolly echoes, his voice a little too loud. The clink of crystal rings out, a high, brittle, fractionally off-key sound. The goodness of this house. The words hang in the air. A lie so potent I can almost taste it, metallic and cold beneath the rich flavor of the wine. The house is not good. It is a well-built, beautifully painted sepulcher. The dinner begins. Plates are served with quiet efficiency by a hired server. Vivian pretends is an old family friend. The conversation, expertly guided by my stepmother, is light. It touches on the weather, the upcoming mayoral election, the success of the church's recent food drive. Pastor Hale, taking a large bite of roast, turns his benevolent gaze on my father. Derek, I have to say, the congregation is just endlessly grateful for the work your boys did on the parish hall roof. A true blessing. My father ducks his head, a pantomime of humility. We were happy to help, Pastor, just doing our part. Nonsense, the pastor booms, waving his fork. You donated hundreds of volunteer hours. Hundreds. It's that kind of commitment, that kind of leadership by example. That truly builds a community of faith. I take a small, precise sip of water. Hundreds of hours. I've seen the logs. The actual number was 96. Most of it unskilled labor from new hires. But 96 hours doesn't have the same ring in a sermon. Hundreds is a holy number, an abstraction. It's like the invoices. The numbers inflate to fit the story. They are putty in the hands of men like Pastor Hale and my father, to be shaped into whatever form their reputation requires. Beside me, Grant soaks in the praise, nodding seriously as if he himself had been on that roof. Well, I'll say this. Mr. Connolly, the inspector, pipes up, wiping his mouth. My job would be a lot easier if every contractor in Cedar Harbor had Harbor Line standards. The red tape I see, it's criminal. He chuckles, a short barking sound. But when a Keaton-built permit lands on my desk, I barely even have to look at it. I know the job is done right. He raises his glass toward Vivian, not my father. A testament to the management. Vivian. And then he winks. It is not a small, friendly gesture. It is a slow, deliberate lowering of one eyelid, a greasy, conspiratorial act of theater. It is a wink that says, I am your man. It says, the fix is in. It says, our secret is safe. It is the wink of a man who signed off on a widow's death trap of a nursery the day before it collapsed in on itself. The gesture lands heavy, a physical weight in the center of the table. I feel the air tighten. Vivian, in return, gives him a small, bright, appreciative smile, a silent thank you for his public allegiance. Derek, my father, clears his throat. Seemingly oblivious to the undercurrent, he seems genuinely uncomfortable with the praise, but desperate for it at the same time. He looks for a new subject, a safer one. His eyes land on me. Marin, he says, his voice hopeful. I was in the attic last week. I saved your childhood desk. A small, stupid, hot feeling flickers in my chest. A betrayal. The oak desk. The one his own father built. The one with the secret drawer I kept my diaries in. The one I assumed had been sold or burned years ago. You did? Yes. Solid oak. They don't make them like that anymore. He beams, proud of this one. Small act of preservation. He has saved a piece of me. Oh, yes, Vivian chimes in brightly, sensing a moment of family reconciliation she can orchestrate. It was in rather a state, covered in paint and, well, all sorts of teenage things, but I had it professionally stripped and refinished. It's just beautiful now. Where is it? I ask, my voice flat. We gave it to Caroline's girls, Vivian says, clapping her hands lightly, as if announcing a prize. My nieces, you remember, they live in the new development by the lake. They just adore it. It's the perfect size for their homework. And there it is, the complete erasure, in one neat paragraph. He saved it. She stripped it of my history, my paint stains, my life, and then she gave it away. She gave my desk, my grandfather's desk, to the girls, the replacements, the good, clean, acceptable daughters. My father's face falls slightly. He didn't save it for me. He just saved it. And Vivian, as always, disposed of it. How lovely for them, I say. My voice is perfectly even. I pick up my knife and make a precise, careful cut in my roast. Grant, sensing the drop in temperature, decides it's his turn. He leans toward me, his voice dropping to a confidential, brotherly tone. He smells of gin and ambition. Marin, speaking of your work, I've been thinking, he lowers his voice, as if sharing a brilliant secret. You're in New York. You've got a name, credibility. Dad and we've been wanting to branch out, to soften the brand a little, more community engagement. I turn to look at him. His eyes are bright, energized. He actually believes this. I'm picturing a Harbor Line Youth Arts Initiative, he says, testing the name out loud. We'd partner with the schools, find at-risk kids, give them a creative outlet, and you would be the face of it, the prodigal daughter, the successful artist, coming home to give back. We use your name, the Harbor Line logo. And the funding? I ask, my voice a soft, curious blade. That's the beauty of it, he says, his smile widening. He is so proud of this. We already have the perfect infrastructure. We could channel the grant money, all the donations, the state arts funding, directly through Harbor hands. He says the name. He actually says the name of the Shell Corporation, right here at the dinner table. My heart doesn't race. It goes perfectly, terrifyingly still. He sees my art, my life, my name, as nothing more than a new, clean funnel for their stolen money, a way to launder their image, and probably more of their cash, through a new, artistic veneer. He's right, my father adds, leaning in. It would be good, for us, for the town. I feel Lila's leg next to me. It has begun to bounce, a fast, frantic, uncontrolled vibration under the table, rattling the floorboards. She heard the name. She knows. She thinks I am caught, or that I am about to be. She is terrified. I let Grant finish. He talks about press releases, about a dedicated workshop space, about the synergy. When he's done, I smile, a warm, professional, interested smile. Grant, I say, that is a truly fascinating idea, ambitious. His face lights up. He's won. I'd need to know it's a good fit, of course, I continue, my voice all pleasant consideration. My work is very specific. You'd need to see what I actually do. Under the table, I move my foot. I slide it until my ankle presses firmly, immovably, against Lila's. I press down. Her leg freezes. The vibration stops. Instantly, I keep the pressure there. Steady. I turn my full attention back to Grant. I would need a proper demonstration space to show you what I'm capable of. I glance around the room, at the assembled audience. I wouldn't want to waste your time with just a portfolio. Maybe tonight, after dinner. You've already got the key players right here. Grant is ecstatic. Tonight? Yes. That's perfect. We can use the living room. Right, Dad? Of course, Derek mutters, relieved that the desk incident is over. But Vivian's eyes have narrowed. She does not like conversations she is not controlling. She does not like Grant taking the spotlight. She cuts in, her voice like chimes. More business later, boys, she says, dismissing them both. We have a little tradition to attend to, she signals to the server, who brings a small, velvet-wrapped box to her side. I found this lovely little thing for the mantel. I thought it was so perfect for this evening's theme. She opens the box and removes a porcelain angel, about a foot tall, with elaborate, gilded wings. It is pale and featureless. Isn't it precious? She asks the room. She sets it on the sideboard, fiddles with a cord, and plugs it into a wall socket. The angel illuminates from within. It is not a warm, soft candle glow. It is a cold, harsh, LED white, shining through the thin porcelain, making the angel look hollow and slightly monstrous. I thought it set the theme for the evening so beautifully, Vivian says, her voice full of reverence. Luminescence, the light of faith, shining from within, for all the world to see. She smiles at Pastor Hale, who nods in grave approval. Beautiful, Vivian, a beautiful metaphor. They are all looking at the glowing, hollow angel, and she has given me my cue. I wait a beat, letting the awe settle. It's beautiful. Vivian, I say. My voice is soft, catching just a little, the voice of the returned prodigal. All eyes turn to me. It's perfect. I look down at my plate. Speaking of light and of faith, I look up, my gaze sweeping the table, my expression open and earnest. I was hoping. I have a small tradition of my own. I look at Pastor Hale, then at Vivian. The nativity lantern I brought, it's the most important piece I've ever made, and in my studio, when we finish a piece like that, we bless it, a small dedication, to set its purpose before it goes out into the world. It's just a few words, a moment of light. I let the request hang in the air, pious, artistic, harmless. I was hoping, I say, my voice just above a whisper, that after the Christmas prayer, before dessert, maybe you would all grant me 5 minutes to bless my lantern. It would mean so much to share that with my family and with you, Pastor. The silence is thick. I have handed Vivian a perfect, irresistible gift, a rebellious, godless daughter, returned home, asking a pastor to bless her religious art in front of the head of the arts board. It is the climax of her entire performance. It is the validation of her work, of her goodness. It proves that her methods, her house, her faith, can redeem even the most broken, rustic thing. Vivian's face transforms. Her smile is no longer just polite. It is radiant. It is triumphant. She loves an audience, and I have just handed her the standing ovation. "Why, Marin," she breathes, placing a hand on her heart. "What a truly lovely, devout thought. We would be honored, wouldn't we?" She looks around the table. The pastor is beaming. Janice Albright looks intrigued. My father looks profoundly, deeply relieved. "Honored," Vivian repeats, her eyes shining in the light of her hollow angel. "Of course, dear. Of course you can." I meet Lila's eyes across the table. Her face is white, her pupils wide. I give her the smallest, most infinitesimal nod. The trap is set, the bait is taken, the audience is locked in their seats, and the stage manager has just, officially, handed me the stage. The dinner plates are cleared. The sound of silver stacking in the kitchen, muffled and distant, is the signal. A new, anticipatory silence settles over the guests as they migrate from the polished wood of the dining room to the softer, carpeted theater of the living room. Vivian, flushed with the success of her hollow, glowing angel and my apparent return to the fold, directs the flow of bodies with the practiced ease of a conductor. "Yes, yes, let's all get comfortable," she says, her voice warm and proprietary. "Find a seat. We must give Marin our full attention for her lovely dedication." I look at Lila. She has been silent for the last hour, a pale ghost at the table. Now, she is vibrating. A high-frequency tremor I can see in the line of her shoulders, in the way her hands are clenched at her sides. "Lee," I say, my voice low and calm, cutting through her panic. "I need your help. It's on casters, but it's heavy." She nods, her eyes wide, grateful for the physical task, for the order. We slip away from the guests and into the kitchen. The hired server is loading the dishwasher, her back to us. The only sound, the gentle, rhythmic spray of water. The air here is humid and smells of soap and discarded food. It is a moment of backstage reality, the mechanics hidden behind the performance. "Are you sure?" Lila whispers. Her voice is a thread. Her hands grip the edge of the tall wooden crate, her knuckles white. "I am sure," I say. "I need you to be strong. Just help me wheel it to the center of the room, in front of the fireplace." She nods again, a sharp, jerky motion. We push. The crate glides silently on its hidden wheels, moving over the threshold, out of the kitchen's humid hush, and onto the plush, silent rug of the living room, into the center of the expectant, candlelit stage. My father and Grant had pushed it into the corner earlier, a piece of cargo. Now, in the middle of the room, it commands the space. It is not just a box, it is the lantern, merely sheathed in its protective pine. I step in front of it, facing the audience. They are arranged on the sofas and armchairs, a semicircle of polite, curious faces. My father, Pastor Hale, Mr. Connolly, Janice Albright, Grant, and Vivian, front and center, seated on an armchair like a throne, her expression one of indulgent, maternal pride. I reach for the heavy brass latches on the front panel of the crate. There are 4 of them. I undo them one by one. The sound is sharp, definitive in the quiet room. A metallic click, a click, a click, a final, heavy click, the sound of a heavy lock being disengaged. I pull the wide wooden door open, swinging it wide, and the lantern inside is revealed. It is not the rustic craft Vivian had imagined. It stands 6 feet tall. It is a severe, elegant piece of modern architecture. The frame is antique brass, heavy and dark, patinated to a near black, polished to a dull, dangerous sheen. The main panels, the ones facing the audience, are not colored glass. They are mercury glass, silvered and opaque, hiding the mechanisms within. In the dim light, the lantern reflects the room. A dark, distorted mirror. It looks less like a nativity scene and more like a Victorian spiritualist's device, something built to communicate with the dead. The corners are intricate, nested panes of thick, beveled glass, designed to catch and fracture any available light. It is beautiful, and it is menacing. My goodness, Marin! Janice Albright, the arts board woman, says, her voice hushed. She leans forward, her professional curiosity piqued. That's imposing. It's not at all what It's part of a new series, I say, my voice projecting just enough, cutting her off gently. Structural studies, I find the heavy-duty cord, black and thick, and plug it into the floor socket near the wall, the same socket Vivian had used for her hollow, glowing angel. The guests settle. They are a captive audience, full of good wine and holiday spirit, ready for a show. They believe they are here for a blessing. And then, as I knew she would, Vivian sets the final trap for herself. She beams at her audience, at her captured friends. "Oh, this is a moment," she says, her voice filled with a genuine, theatrical reverence. She pulls out her own smartphone, its gold case winking in the firelight. "Lila, dear, take a video. Grant, everyone, we must document this. For the church newsletter. Pastor, you'll want a copy of this, I'm sure." Phones drift out. Small, dark rectangles held aloft. Small, red record lights appear in the dim room. One by one, Pastor Hale, his face beatific, Mr. Connolly, smiling, adjusting his focus, Janice, ever the curator, Grant, already thinking of social media. They are all raising their phones, their screens reflecting the dark, mirrored surface of the lantern. They are not just an audience, they are witnesses. They are creating the record. Vivian adores documentation. "For a blessing of light," I say, my voice taking on the quiet authority of the studio, the tone I use when I'm about to strike glass. We need to see only the light, the source. I walk to the wall dimmer, the magnificent crystal chandelier above us, the one that hums with strained, old power, begins to fade. I slide the dimmer down, down, down. The room is plunged into near darkness. The electric hum ceases. The only light now comes from the low, flickering flames in the fireplace, and from the small, nervous candles Vivian has placed on the mantel and side tables. The candlelight is weak. It trembles against the dark winter windows, reflecting small, jittery points of light on the faces of the guests. The air is thick. The room is intimate. It is a confession booth. I stand beside the lantern. The remote is in my hand. It is small, black, and unremarkable. It is invisible in the shadows. "This piece," I say into the darkness, my voice clear and steady, "is called The Shelter." I press the first button. With a faint, mechanical whisper, a sound almost masked by the crackle of the fire. The mechanism inside the lantern engages. The dark, mirrored mercury glass panels slide silently away, and the first light ignites. It is exactly what I promised. A serene nativity. It is breathtaking. The light is not white or cold. It is warm, golden, and rich, glowing from deep within. A Mary in cobalt blue glass, so deep it is almost black at the edges. A Joseph in amber and olive green. The light is focused, projecting a soft golden aura, painting the walls and the ceiling in soft, moving colors. I hear the gasps. They are genuine. A soft, collective sigh from the room. "Oh, Marin," Vivian breathes. Her voice is thick with emotion. It's divine. It's truly divine. Beautiful, my child, Pastor Hale murmurs, his phone held high to capture the holy light. A true gift. It is a moment of pure, false peace. I let it hold. I let it hang in the air for 5 full seconds. I let them sink into the beauty. Let them accept the image. Let them be disarmed. This is what they expected. This is the prodigal daughter, harmless and redeemed. We bless the shelter, I say, my voice steady. That protects the family. My thumb moves. It finds the next button. Click. The second sequence engages. There is a soft, sliding sound, a nested set of panels, the ones etched with microfilm, slides almost imperceptibly behind the first. The light flickers, just once, as if a candle has caught a draft. The wood of the nativity stable, which was just a simple, warm, striated brown glass, suddenly fractures. The light shifts, hardens, becomes less golden and more white. Text, sharp and black, blooms across the wood grain, projected forward. It is no longer wood, it is an image of an invoice. The room, which had sighed, goes utterly still. Itemized lines appear, sharp and clear, glowing 3 feet tall on the face of the lantern. Marine-grade plywood, premium cedar beams, storm-rated flashing, and beside them, the cost. And then, a second set of panels slides in. A second invoice, a perfect phantom, overlays the first. The same project number, the same date, the same items, double billed. A tremor of light, and the image resolves. It is a bank transfer receipt. From the Coastal Children's Fund to Harbor Hands, the amount matches the fraudulent invoice perfectly. We bless the star, I say, my voice cutting through the sudden, suffocating silence. That guides the wise men. My thumb moves again. Click. The brilliant, amber-glass star at the top of the nativity, the one that had cast such a warm glow, explodes. It does not make a sound, but the light bursts, fragments. It transforms into a complex, rotating wheel of white light. It is a mandala of dates, bank transfers, and signatures. The light is cold now, a clinical, investigative white. It slices through the dark, projecting the signatures not just onto the lantern, but onto the walls, onto the pale, stunned faces of the guests. And there, repeating, a chorus, an echo, my father's initials, his distinct, looping, confident script, DK, DK, DE. Signed on invoices from Harborline, signed on material approvals, signed on checks that cross-reference, line by line, with the double billing from the stable below. The room is swallowed by a vacuum. The only sound in the entire vast house is the faint, high-pitched hum of the lantern's motor and the crackle of the fire. The polite, holiday smiles are frozen, grotesque masks in the shifting, documentary light. I look at Mr. Connolly, the city inspector. His phone, which had been held high to record the blessing, has lowered to his lap. His face, ruddy and cheerful moments before, has whitened. It is a pale, sickly, greenish-gray. His eyes are fixed, unblinking, on the glowing signatures. His mouth is slightly open. He looks like a man who has just been told the exact date and time of his death. I look at my father. He is squinting. He is confused, leaning forward in his chair, his hands gripping the armrests. He sees his name. He sees the invoices, but he doesn't yet understand the sequence. He just looks puzzled, wounded, as if I have made a terrible, embarrassing mistake in my art. But Vivian understands. She understands instantly. She understands the sequence, the implication, the audience, and the recording phones. She stands up. The sound of her chair legs scraping on the hardwood floor is a violent, tearing sound in the absolute silence. Her smile is gone. Her face is a hard, white mask of pure, cold fury. Her eyes, reflecting the data from the lantern, are narrowed to black, glittering slits. She steps forward. She plants herself between the lantern and her guests. between the evidence and her witnesses, as if her small, cashmere-clad body can physically block the truth. "What is this?" she hisses. Her voice is a low, dangerous vibration. She tries to laugh, but the sound that comes out is a dry, sharp, ugly bark. "What art school trick is this, Marin?" I do not move. I stand by my lantern, my hand steady on the remote. The light from the wheel of my father's signatures illuminates the side of my face, the shadows of the text passing over me like water. I look at her, at this woman who erased me, who stripped my history, who built an empire on the ruins of a widow's nursery. "It's not a trick, Vivian," I say. My voice is clear, it is cold, and it rings in the silent, listening room. "It's a restoration of truth." My restoration continues. Vivian's accusation, her art school trick, hangs in the air. But the lantern is already moving. My thumb finds the next button. Click. The wheel of my father's signatures fractures. The light shifts again, solidifying. It is a new document, panel 4. It is the Articles of Incorporation for Harbor Hands, clean, official, bearing the state seal. The guests lean forward, squinting in the clinical white light. The address is listed: a post office box at a Mail and More facility 2 towns over. The treasurer is listed: a Mr. James P. Sullivan, a ghost, a phantom built of ink. The image holds for a heart-stopping second. Then, a sudden, sharp overlay, a red, glowing line isolates the employer identification number at the top of the form. A number assigned by the government. The digits pulse, bright and damning. Then, letters, pulled from the alphanumeric code. Dissolve and realign. C, R, O, S, S. Her maiden name. It hangs there, glowing. She had embedded her own name in the federal filing. A private, arrogant joke, a signature hidden in plain sight, invisible to the human eye but captured perfectly by my lens. Vivian makes a sound. It is not a word. It is a low, strangled gasp. The sound of air being punched from her lungs. It is not the sound of shock. It is the sound of recognition. It is the sound of a vault she thought was buried, sealed, and forgotten, being cracked open in her own living room. Before she can find a word, before my father can process the anagram, my thumb moves. Click, panel 5. The light changes. It is no longer the cold, crisp white of documents. It is the grainy, terrible, full color of a smartphone photograph. It is the widow's nursery, Mrs. Gable's nursery. But it is not the pretty picture from the newspaper, the one with Vivian and my father handing over the keys. It is the skeleton. It is the roofer's anonymous photographs. It is a close-up of a support stud, the premium storm-rated lumber that was billed for, and it is rotted. A dark, cancerous mold blooms across the wood, which is splintered and waterlogged. A second photo clicks into place, a stack of mislabeled shipments, the Harbor Line stamp on boxes of inferior, non-coated plywood. A third, a close-up of flashing, thin as foil, already corroded. And in the corner of every single photograph, a small, bright, digital timestamp, dates, times, all from the weeks before the structure's completion, all from the weeks before Mr. Connolly, who is now holding his breath, signed his name to the final inspection. I hear a glass set down too hard on a wooden coaster. It is Mr. Connolly. His face is no longer white. It is slick with a sudden, cold sheen. He is staring at the rotted wood as if it is a corpse he personally buried, now unearthed and glowing. This is Janice Albright, the arts board woman, whispers, her phone still recording, her voice a tremor of dawning, journalistic horror. Click, panel 6. The light softens, but the image is just as damning. It is a sketch, a simple, careful drawing in blue ballpoint pen, on lined notebook paper. It is the map Lila slipped into my hand, but next to it, the lantern projects another image, one of her postcards, a drawing of the Cedar Harbor Lighthouse, and another, a seagull. The images align, side by side. The lantern highlights the text, her handwriting, signed not with her name, but with her code, from the blue bedroom. And then, a sequence of her other sketches I had saved and scanned, projected one after another. The layout of the basement, the rectangle for the furnace, the X in the corner, and finally, the drawing of Vivian's house keyring, the keys labeled with holidays, Christmas, Easter, and the small, ugly, metal one, Bethlehem. It is her secret testimony. It is the proof of the conspiracy, sketched by a child. Lila lets out a small sob, a tiny, terrified sound she immediately stifles, her hand flying to her mouth. Vivian's head snaps toward her, not to me, to Lila. Her eyes, which had been fixed on the lantern in a state of furious, calculating shock, now fill with a venom so pure, so personal, that it is almost visible. It is a look of absolute betrayal. She now knows she had a spy. She now knows the call was coming from inside her own perfect, curated house. "Lila," my father whispers, his voice confused and broken. "What is this? What?" "This," I say, my voice cutting through his, "is the machine." My thumb moves. Click, panel 7. This is the core. This is the art. The image is no longer static. It is pure motion. It is a single, pulsing, golden line of light, the color of my father's cufflinks, the color of the angel's wings. It is the money. The light begins in an account labeled Coastal Children's Fund. It flows, a bright river, directly into the account of Pastor Hale's Building and Benevolence Fund. It pools there for a second, and the dates align. The lantern flashes the dates of the deposits, dates that match, day for day, with Vivian's biggest charity gala nights. "No," Pastor Hale says. He is on his feet. His voice is not booming now. It is a thin, reedy, papery sound. That is not possible. That is our discretionary fund. That is for the community. That's for the new roof. "Watch, Pastor," I say. And the river moves. The light pulses, and the money, now laundered, streams out, a second, cleaner line. It flows from the church's fund directly into the account ledger of the Cross Family Trust. Vivian's personal, inherited trust, her maiden name, again. My father is watching the money flow from his wife's charity, through his church, to his wife's private account. He looks utterly broken. His face is slack with a devastation so complete it is silent. He is not angry. He is erased. "Vivian," he whispers. Just her name, a question. Grant breaks. He is not built for this kind of pressure. He is built for easy smiles and backslapping. He scrambles to his feet, his chair nearly toppling, his face a mask of raw, boyish panic. "I didn't know," he blurts out, his voice cracking, high and unnatural. He points. His finger is shaking, and it is pointing directly at his stepmother. "I didn't know what it was. I only signed what she sent me. She said it was procedure. She said it was just community leadership. I only signed." He clamps his jaw shut, his eyes wide with the horror of his own admission. Too late. He has just confessed. He is just, in front of the pastor, the inspector, and the head of the arts board, named Vivian as the sole architect. My father roars. It is an awful wounded sound, a sound from an animal. "Lights!" he bellows, his voice cracking. "Turn on the lights! Marin, this is poison. This is filth. Turn on the lights!" He lunges for the lamp on the side table, the one with the silk shade. He fumbles with the switch. Nothing. He stabs at the wall dimmer, the one I used. Nothing. He doesn't know my remote is only for the lantern. He doesn't know that Ari, my mentor, is sitting in a rental car down the street, watching the house, his phone connected to the house's Wi-Fi. The moment my lantern turned on, Ari used a silent, pre-installed smart plug to kill the main dimmer switch completely. My father is not in control of the light. I am. "There must be context," Pastor Hale pleads, his hands raised, his face ashen. He is looking at the money trail, his church's name glowing in the center of the fraud. This is data. It's out of context. My child. It must be. You are right, Pastor, I say. My voice is quiet. Context is everything. Click, panel 8. The inspector's signature, large and looping, from the nursery sign-off. It hangs in the air, stark white. And then, sound. For the first time, the lantern speaks. A tinny, awful recording. Mr. Connolly's voice, slightly slurred, confident, recorded from a voicemail I had been anonymously forwarded 3 months ago. Vivian. Yeah, hi. Look, I'm at the club. I ran the numbers. You gotta expedite the next donation to the wine fund. If you want the harbor permits expedited, simple as that, we all eat. As his voice plays, a transcript of the voicemail overlays his signature. The words expedite and permits and wine fund glow a visceral, blood red. His voice, authorizing the trade. His signature, the payment for it. The silence that follows is absolute. Mr. Connolly tries to speak, but no sound comes out. He just shakes his head, his hands limp at his sides. I press the final button. All the images fade. The light, the documents, the signatures, the money, all of it. The lantern panel goes dark. And then, a new image resolves. It is not a document. It is not a photo. It is a seal. A small, intricate, glowing rosette in the lower left corner of the dark panel. The official, embossed seal of Marta Lane, attorney at law. And beneath it, glowing in serene, white, serif text. Audited and certified, all data verified and archived as of this date. Marta's seal, a promise, a threat, a legal fire to come. That is what finally breaks her, not the exposure of the theft, not her husband's broken face, not her stepson's betrayal. It is the name of the lawyer, the sight of that seal. It means this is not just a family drama. It is a case. Vivian lunges. She does not scream. She moves, a silent predator. Her body low and coiled. Her arm is outstretched, her fingers clawed, her nails painted a festive, holiday red. She is not aiming for me. She is aiming for the power cord plugged into the wall, to kill the light, to silence the truth. She never makes it. The hallway door, the one leading to the foyer, opens quietly. A figure steps into the room, silhouetted against the dim hall light. It is Helena Rhodes, my mentor, my savior. She is tall and severe as a church spire, her silver hair pulled back in its customary, tight bun. She is wearing a simple black coat, and she is absolutely calm. She steps directly into Vivian's path. Vivian collides with her, a gasp of shock and fury. She stumbles back. Helena does not move. She looks down at my stepmother, at this panicked, cornered woman. Her voice is not loud, but it carries the weight of annealed glass, of cold iron, of absolute authority. It cuts through the dark, frozen room. Do not touch the evidence, Mrs. Keaton. The room is frozen. Vivian, poised to strike. Helena, an immovable object. And somewhere outside, in the cold, winter-dark street, I know 2 unmarked cars are idling, their engines quiet. Not police, not yet. Just Marta's investigators. They are waiting for my signal, waiting to walk up the path, waiting to serve the papers, ensuring that the evidence, and the witnesses, remain exactly where they are. Helena's words, "Do not touch the evidence," are an iron bar dropped into the mechanism of the night, grinding everything to a halt. Vivian, frozen in her lunge, her hand still inches from the cord, looks at Helena with a mixture of raw fury and utter bafflement. This is a variable she did not anticipate. This is a person from a world she does not know, a woman who is not impressed by her pearls, her house, or her name. Helena does not move. She simply waits, a guardian of the truth, her presence an absolute. Vivian slowly, painfully, retracts her hand. She straightens up, but she is diminished, coiled. The room is a tomb. The air is unbreathable. The only light, cold and legal, is the glowing, embossed seal of Marta Lane, attorney at law. The guests are statues, their faces pale masks in the dark. The recording phones, held by Janice Albright and Grant, have not wavered. They are still capturing every suffocating second. I turn my gaze from the women, from the confrontation, to my father. He is the one I came for. He is the wound. He is staring at the lantern, at the lawyer's glowing seal, but I know he is not seeing it. His face is slack, his mouth open. He looks old. Suddenly, not a pillar of the community, not the owner of Harborline Build, just a man, broken in his own living room, the foundations of his life exposed as rotted wood. "Dad," I say. My voice is quiet, but it cuts through the silence, a single, clean line. He flinches, his gaze slowly, agonizingly, dragging from the lantern to my face. His eyes are wet, lost. "You taught me to sand edges," I say. His brow furrows, confusion. "When you first let me in the shop, I was maybe 12. You taught me how to finish a piece of raw lumber, how to sand with the grain, how to respect the wood. You taught me to make it smooth, to make it safe to the touch. You told me the finish was just as important as the frame." I take a step toward him. "You taught me that, and then you stood by and you let her file me down to nothing." "Marin," he whispers, "it is a plea." "Not sand," I continue, my voice unbreaking, holding him in its grip. "File, against the grain. You stood and watched while she took every edge, every piece of me that was sharp or real, and you let her file it away until I was just dust. You watched her erase me, and then you swept me out of the house, because the dust was messy, because it was easier than keeping the peace." I had to," he whispers, the words tearing from his throat, raw and desperate. "I was keeping the peace, for the house, for Lila. It was just to keep the peace." "Peace?" The word tastes like acid. "You call this hollow, silent, terrified house peace? This isn't peace. This is a ceasefire that you negotiated. This is a truce where you sacrificed your own daughter." I look at him, at this man I once worshipped. "You have to pay for that kind of peace, Dad. Who bled for it? Who paid for your quiet life?" I let the question hang. He has no answer. His eyes fall, and he finally, truly, looks at Lila. She is crying, silent tears streaming down her face, her hand over her mouth. "She did," I say, answering my own question. "And I did. This is—" Vivian finds her voice, but it is a new one. The hard edge of command is gone, replaced by a high, trembling vibrato. This is her next, oldest, most reliable script, the performance of the martyr. She stumbles back from Helena, her hand flying not to her throat, but to her heart. After all I have done for this family." The first tear is produced, perfect, catching the light from the fire. "After all I did, I took you in. I gave you this beautiful home. I built this life for us, for Derek, for the children. This is my thanks?" She turns her wide, tear-filled eyes to the guests, to Pastor Hale. "This poison, this spectacle, in my own home, on Christmas." Her voice breaks, a practiced, perfect tremor. The ingratitude." She looks at Derek, her face a mask of wounded, tragic betrayal, begging him to step in, to be the man, to defend her, to cast me out. "Derek, she's ungrateful. She has always been ungrateful." "No." The word is tiny. It is small as a pinprick, but it pierces the entire vast room. It came from Lila. We all turn. Lila, who has been a silent, vibrating shadow all night, takes her hand away from her mouth. Her face is white, streaked with tears, but her eyes are not scared. They are burning. She's looking directly at Vivian. No, she says again, her voice clearer, stronger. She's not. You are. Vivian freezes. The tears stop, as if a tap has been turned off. Lila, you are hysterical. You don't. You erased her, Lila says, and her voice rises. Finding the strength of her 17 years of silence, you erased her from our Christmas letters, every single year. Grant, my father, Pastor Hale. They all flinch. It is such a small, domestic detail, but it is the truth they all witnessed, the truth they all accepted. I saw the drafts, Lila continues, her words coming faster now, a torrent. I saw the pictures you chose, the ones where she was standing just out of frame, the ones you cropped. You wrote about Grant. You wrote about the new roof. You wrote about the dog. You never, ever wrote her name. You told everyone she didn't exist. You told us she didn't exist. She takes a ragged breath. You stood right there, in the kitchen, 2 weeks ago, and you told Mrs. Hale I was your only daughter. You erased her. The accusation lands. It is a killing blow, more effective than any bank ledger, because it is the sin they all understood, the one they all participated in. The dam is broken. Grant, who has been standing by the fireplace, looking like a boy about to be sick, slides down into an armchair, his head in his hands. She's right, he mutters into his palms, his voice thick. It's all. She's right. He looks up, his eyes bloodshot, his face a ruin of weak, pathetic surrender. I knew, not all of it, not the church fund, but I knew about the bids, the shell bids. He looks at me, his gaze desperate, begging for an absolution I will not give. An accountant friend, at the club, he made a joke. About 6 months ago, he called Harbor Hands Derek's little donation filter. He thought it was clever. He was drunk. He thought it was funny. He drops his head again. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. I chose silence. I chose the new car. I chose the promotion. I'm sorry. Marin, I just didn't want to know. He is a weak man, confessing to weakness. It is the first adult thing he has done in years. The guests are no longer guests. They are a jury. They are witnesses to a public execution. Janice Albright is pale. Her phone's still up, but her gaze is fixed on Vivian with a cold, academic fury. She has been used. She, her title, her arts board, have been used as decor, as polite set dressing for a night of fraud. Mr. Connolly says nothing. He is a ghost, a man made of sweat, staring at the floor, waiting for the cuffs he knows are coming. But Pastor Hale, he has been standing, his hands clenched, his face a ruin of shame, staring at the blank, dark panel of the lantern, as if rereading the path of the money. He turns. His gaze is slow, pained. It lands on a small, quiet woman in a gray dress, sitting on the sofa near the hall. She has been silent all night. She had arrived with the pastor, a small, unassuming shadow, a charity case he was helping by bringing her to a nice Christmas Eve dinner. It is Mrs. Gable, the widow, the owner of the collapsed nursery. She is looking at the lantern, her face crumpled in a mask of horrifying, dawning realization. She is connecting the rotted wood from the photograph to the signatures. Meredith, Pastor Hale chokes out. His voice is a broken thing. Mrs. Gable, oh, my God. She looks at him, her eyes wide with a question she is too terrified to ask. Pastor? That picture of the wood, was that my... I am so sorry, he says, the words torn from him. He is not looking at Vivian. He is not looking at my father. He is looking at the woman whose life they collectively, casually, ruined. I see it now. I see the pattern. Your nursery. The donations. Oh, Lord, forgive me. I am so sorry. Meredith, I failed. I am so sorry. His apology is thin. It is choked with his own complicity, his own shame at being the filter, the fool. But it is real. He has apologized to the widow, in the room, in front of the people who stole from her. Vivian has lost the room. She has lost her husband's protection. She has lost her son's silence. She has lost her stepdaughter's fear. She has nothing left but rage. The tears are gone. Her face hardens into something I have never seen, a mask of pure reptilian hatred. She drops the performance. She turns to me. She takes a step, and Helena shifts, a silent warning. Vivian hisses, her voice low, venomous. You think you've won? You think this performance changes anything? You are nothing. You are just a broken, damaged girl. You are just a girl with broken glass. The insult lands, broken, damaged, glass. I let it hang in the air. I let everyone in the room hear it. And then I smile. It is not a big smile. It is a small, tired, cold smile. Exactly, I say. I look at her, at this woman who tried to file me into dust. I am a girl with broken glass. I nod. You gave it to me, all of you. You, him, this house. You handed me shard after shard, year after year. The lies, the erasures, the checks for supplies. You handed me an entire toolbox of brokenness. I look at the lantern. My lantern, still humming faintly, Marta's seal glowing in the dark. And I did the only thing I know how to do. Vivian. I build with it. Enough. My father's voice, a roar of pain. He is on his feet, his hands clenched into fists. He is not looking at me. He is looking at the guests, at Pastor Hale, at Mrs. Gable, at Janice Albright's phone, still recording. He sees his reputation, his sterling, Keaton-quality reputation, shattering on the floor. Enough, he says again, his voice cracking. Marin, enough. This is a family matter. We will handle this, privately. Please, he is begging. Turn it off. Ask your friend to leave. He gestures wildly at Helena. Tell these people to go. We will handle this ourselves. He is trying to put the lid back on. He is trying to rebuild the walls, to hide the rot. I look at him, my father, the man who taught me to sand edges, the man who whispered to me, just hours ago, to be quiet. I shake my head, a small, sad, final gesture. I can't, Dad. I let my gaze move from his face, past the stunned guests, to the hallway where he hissed at me, where my stepmother first reached for me. Guests are still here. My gaze drops back to the lantern. Marta's legal seal glows, a promise of the public, legal reckoning to come, but beside it, the lantern's final, largest panel waits. It is unlit, opaque. It is a dark mirror, reflecting the ruined, silent faces of the people in the room. It is a promise. It is a threat. It is a promise that I'm not finished, that there is more. My father's plea to handle this privately hangs in the ruined, superheated air. He is looking at the phones, at the guests, at the ruins of his reputation, seeing only the immediate fire. He doesn't understand. He thinks this lantern, this room, is the fire. He is wrong. This lantern is just the lens. The fire is everywhere. Guests are still here, I repeat, my voice devoid of the emotion from moments before. It is now the voice of my studio, the voice of the work. They deserve to see the whole story, not just the parts you're comfortable with. I look at the dark, waiting. Final panel of the lantern. This is the restoration, I say. This is what it looks like when you line the cracks in light. My thumb moves, a final deliberate press of the remote. The lantern's motor whirs, The last, unlit panel does not light up with a single, new piece of evidence. It explodes into a blur. The entire machine engages, a rapid, blinding, kinetic sequence. The living room is no longer a theater. It becomes a light box, an X-ray of its own sickness, a moving archive that no one can unsee. The roofer's photos, the double-billed invoices, the bank transfers, the voicemail transcripts, the signatures, they all begin to move, to connect. They are no longer static slides. They are a fluid, undeniable narrative. The signature from Derek's invoice slides across the panel and attaches itself, with a cold, digital snap, to the transfer from Harbor Hands. The date from the Gala Night fundraiser slides and locks into place next to the deposit into the Cross Family Trust. The audio wave of Mr. Connolly's wine fund voicemail visually links to the permit he signed the next day. It is a terrible, living flow chart of fraud, moving too fast to dispute, but slow enough to comprehend. And in the bottom corner of the panel, a small, white, scrolling text begins to flow, the kind of data stream that no one in this room, save Helena, understands. File, HH invoice 001, JPG, hash 7A3C1E, certified, M, Lane, 184503, upload, Cloud Mirror A, complete. File, audio of voicemail Connolly, MP3. Hash, 9F1B8A, certified, M, Lane, 184510, upload, Cloud Mirror B, complete. File, Gable, nursery photos, zip, hash, 4D4EUF. Certified, M, Lane, 18 to 45 to 15, upload, Cloud Mirror C, complete. It's already mirrored, I say into the silence. My voice is informational, flat. It's in the cloud. It's been archived and time-stamped by Marta's office. This is just the receipt, a copy for the house. As if summoned by the finality of the act, a new sound penetrates the sealed, suffocating room. It is deep, resonant, and public. The sound of the main church bell, ringing across the street. It is 7 o'clock. Vivian's head snaps toward the window. The pageant, her pageant, the holiest night of her public year. The Cedar Harbor pageant, I say, my voice level. It's starting. I turn my gaze to Pastor Hale, who is standing, frozen, his face a mask of gray wax. You approved the community live stream this year, didn't you, Pastor? For the shut-ins? For the donors who couldn't attend? A wider audience? You called it? He just stares at me, his mouth opening and closing, no sound coming out. Ari is across the street, I say. He volunteered to run the projector for the pageant, a donation of his time, and at 7 o'clock, his feed just quietly synced with mine. The implication lands. It lands like a physical blow. This moving archive of fraud, this flowchart of their ruin, is not just in this room. It is outside. It is being projected, right now, onto the large screen beside the church's live nativity scene. It is being fed directly, cleanly, into the community live stream, where hundreds of people in Cedar Harbor are tuning in to watch their children dressed as shepherds and angels. They are not seeing a silent night. They are seeing the metadata stream. They are seeing the bank transfers. They are seeing the signatures. I glance at the digital clock on the cable box, 7:01. The metadata stream on the lantern flickers. It updates. Action. Serve preservation notice. Target. Harborline Build, LLC. Sent. 19:01 o'clock. Action. Serve preservation notice. Target. Harbor Hands. NPO. Sent. 19:01. Action. Serve preservation notice. Target. C. Connolly, Inspector's Office. Sent. 19:01 o'clock. Marta's team just served digital preservation notices, I narrate, as if reading a technical manual. To your offices, to your firm, Dad, to Harbor Hands, to Mr. Connolly's city email. They are legally required, as of 1 minute ago, not to delete, alter, or touch a single file on their servers. I look at Mr. Connolly. He has collapsed into his chair, a man made of wet paper. And the notice itself? It was time-stamped, live, in the feed. The whole town just saw it. They just saw the city inspector's office be served. And the donors, I continue, the ones who gave so generously to the Coastal Children's Fund, the ones on Vivian's gala list, they just received an automated email. It has a link to the live stream. Vivian is shaking her head, a small, jerky. No. It's a special link. The unsubscribe button doesn't work. Not until they've viewed at least 60 seconds of the feed. Marta insisted on that part. She wanted to ensure they were properly informed of where their money went. A sound, a vibration. It is high-pitched, metallic, buzzing aggressively against a crystal wine glass on the side table. It is Grant's phone. He scrambles for it, his hands shaking so violently he almost drops it. He fumbles, bringing the bright screen to his face. The light from his phone illuminates his terrified white features. "Who is it, Grant?" I ask. It's my banker," he whispers, his voice incredulous. "My personal banker. From the club." He reads the text, his voice a dead, hollow monotone. "Grant, just got an automated flag. Incoming audit, hold on all Keaton and Harbor Line accounts. What the hell is going on? Call me, now." Grant's words are the key. Vivian, who had been staring at the live stream announcement in pure paralytic shock, now stiffens. Her face, which was a mask of rage, transforms into something new, a cold, reptilian, financial panic. "An audit hold," she whispers. She is not talking to us. She is talking to herself. The pledge, the gala pledge, from last week. "The $100,000 from the arts gala?" I ask, my voice helpful. "The one you transferred to the church fund on Tuesday?" The lantern, as if listening, pulls up that exact transfer document, glowing and proud. "The one you were scheduled to move to the Cross Trust tomorrow morning, December 25th, a Christmas bonus?" Her eyes, black and dead, lock with mine. She understands. It is not just exposed, it is frozen. Her money, her laundered, stolen, final, perfect pledge, it is trapped, mid-transfer, in Pastor Hale's church fund, a fund that is now locked down by the audit hold her stepson's banker just triggered. The trap has snapped shut, not just on her reputation, but on her wallet. I will fix this," my father says. He steps forward, away from the fireplace, his hands raised, trying to regain control, to be the patriarch, to be Derek Keaton of Harbor Line build. He is trying to shield her. "Vivian, I will take responsibility." He turns to the room, to the silent, recording phones, to the widow, Mrs. Gable. It was me," he says, his voice thick. "The invoices, the materials. It was a business decision, a mistake, my mistake. It was mine. Vivian, she just runs the charities. She didn't know the specifics of the supply chain." He is trying to fall on the sword. He is trying to be the man, to protect his wife. It is the last, noble, pathetic gesture of a man who has nothing left. "You can't, Dad." My thumb presses the button. The moving archive pauses. It isolates the first Harbor Hands invoice from 5 years ago. It isolates the first corresponding transfer authorization from the Cross Trust. Look closer. The images zoom, the text sharpening. Who signed first? Dad? Every single time? The overlays flash, one after another, a dozen, 2 dozen, 5 years of escalating fraud. Her signature, authorizing the payment, the transfer, the creation of the fund. Vivian C. Keaton, and then, days or weeks later, his signature, fulfilling the order, signing the substandard invoice, Derek J. Keaton. The evidence shows who signed first. Every time, I say, my voice cutting through his attempted sacrifice. She wasn't just an accomplice. You were her accomplice. You can't take responsibility for this. Because it was never yours to begin with. It was always hers. She built this, Dad. You just hammered in the nails. The room is broken. The family is shattered. My father slumps against the fireplace, his face empty, the man made of sawdust. And Lila, my sister, who has been watching this all, her face a mixture of terror and fierce, terrible pride. She makes her move. She is shaking, from her head to her feet, but she walks. She walks past Grant, who is weeping into his hands. She walks past Vivian, who is staring at the signatures, her face a blank, inanimate object. She walks directly to Pastor Hale. She digs into the pocket of her holiday dress. She pulls out a small, simple, blue flash drive. Bethlehem, she says, her voice trembling but clear. It's labeled Bethlehem. I went down there 2 months ago after she yelled at me for being in the basement. She holds it out to the pastor. Her hand is shaking violently. I copied everything from the cabinet, the real ledgers, the ones that aren't in the cloud, the paper checkbooks, the diaries. She takes a sharp, ragged breath. I copied everything. It's all here. Pastor Hale looks at the small, blue piece of plastic as if it is a holy relic or a snake. He slowly, finally, his own hand trembling, reaches out and takes it from her, the physical evidence, the source code. And as his fingers close around it, we hear it. Faintly at first, from down the hill, from the harbor, not a panicked sound, not a racing, dramatic scream. It is the slow, methodical, rising and falling wail of police cruisers, more than one. They are not coming fast. They are not racing to a crisis. They are just coming. Not dramatic arrests, I say, my voice almost a whisper, to the silent, ruined room. The sirens are growing louder. They are not coming for a scene. They are just the slow, serious kind, the kind that changes reputations forever. The sirens are a physical presence now, a rising, insistent wail that floods the dark room, washing over the cold candlelight and the single, glowing seal of Marta's authority. No one speaks, no one moves. The room stands in a state of stunned, paralyzed silence. The performance is over. The house of cards, built with such meticulous, glossy precision, has collapsed into a pile of verifiable data. The faces I see in the flickering, unsteady light are no longer the ones from dinner. They are stripped bare. Pastor Hale's face is gray, a mask of profound, spiritual shame. Janice Albright looks ill, her journalistic curiosity replaced by the sick realization that she was a willing prop. Mr. Connolly is just a void, a man staring at the floor, waiting for the inevitable. Grant is a weeping, broken child. My father is hollowed out, the structure gone, leaving only a facade that is visibly crumbling. And Vivian, her face is no longer blank. The paralysis has broken, replaced by a final, convulsive surge of pure, undiluted venom. She has lost her money, her reputation, her house, her husband, her control. She has nothing left, and in that void, there is only one target, me. The sirens are close now, stopping, right outside the house. Red and blue lights begin to sweep across the living room walls, a silent, frantic strobe, painting us all in the colors of law and consequence. Vivian hisses. It is an awful reptilian sound, the last breath of a dying animal. She lunges again, not for the cord, not for the door, for me. Her hands are claws, her face a contortion of blind hate. You, she snarls. She never reaches me. My father, who has been a statue of sawdust, moves. He doesn't step in front of me. He doesn't push me aside. He grabs her, his hand, the hand that built this town, closes around her thin, cashmere-covered wrist. It is a violent, desperate grip. It is not an act of protection. It is not a husband shielding his daughter from his wife. It is the last, frantic act of a man trying to manage the optics. He is not stopping an assault. He is stopping a public scene. He is stopping the police, whose footsteps we can now hear on the wide front porch, from walking in on a physical domestic altercation. "Vivian, no," he chokes out. Not in front of— Stop." She fights him, twisting in his grip, but she is small, and his terror is stronger than her rage. I do not flinch. I do not even breathe. I just take one deliberate step back, moving myself out of her reach, out of her orbit. I look at her, trapped in my father's panicked grasp, and I feel nothing, no fear, no triumph, just the cold, clean finality of a line scored in glass. "You don't get to touch the art," I say. My thumb moves one last time on the remote, the glowing seal of Marta's law firm, the flowchart of fraud, the scrolling metadata. It all dissolves. The lantern's motor whirs, a final quiet click of tumblers falling into place. A new image slides into view, the final one. It is not data, it is not evidence, it is not a threat. It is a window. It is a simple, beautiful stained glass panel, a rendering of the view from this very house, the Cedar Harbor Bay. The light is not cold and white, it is luminous, rendered in 1,000 shards of ocean blues, pale winter whites, and the clean, sandy amber of the dunes. It is the harbor made honest. It is the world outside this house, the world they tried to plunder and control, return to its own simple, fractured beauty. It is the first and only piece of truth this house has ever held. The light is soft, peaceful. It washes over the room, over the flashing police lights, and for a moment, everything is just still. Pastor Hale lets out a long, ragged breath, a sound of utter devastation. He is looking at the window, at the clean light. He turns to me, his eyes wrecked. Lila's flash drive, Bethlehem, is clutched in his hand. "You," he starts, his voice rough, broken. "You brought clarity, a terrible, terrible clarity." He shakes his head, not in denial, but in acceptance. I will step down, effective immediately, pending a full, external audit of everything." He looks at Mrs. Gable, the widow. "Everything. His apology is not for me, it is for his own soul." The front door's heavy knocker sounds, a firm, polite, official knock. Mr. Connolly, the inspector, sees his chance. While all eyes are on the pastor, on the door, he makes a move. He slips from his chair, a shadow detaching from the wall, and tries to glide toward the kitchen, toward the back exit. He doesn't make it 2 steps. A new figure is in the doorway, standing just behind Helena, a young woman in a dark, severe suit, holding a briefcase. Marta Lane's associate. She has been there for the last 5 minutes, a silent witness. She does not block the inspector's path. She doesn't have to. She just looks at him, raises an eyebrow, and taps the digital recorder in her breast pocket. She is witnessing his attempt to flee. Connolly freezes, his shoulders slump, and he turns, defeated, and slowly sits back down. The trap is clean. My father finally releases Vivian's wrist. She crumples onto the sofa, a pile of expensive, ruined cashmere. He turns to me, his face a landscape of ruin. "Marin," he whispers. The sirens are gone, replaced by the heavy, measured footsteps of men in the foyer. Is there any way— how do we fix this?" He is still asking, still looking for the glue, the patch, the way to sand down this raw, broken edge. I look at my father, the man who let me be filed into dust. "Yes," I say, "there is. It's simple. Start telling the truth, in writing." The knock comes again, louder. "Mr. Keaton, Cedar Harbor Police, we're here to speak with you and your wife." "I'll cooperate," Grant blurts out from his chair. His face is a swollen, tear-stained mess, but his voice is, for the first time in his life, empty of bravado. He is terrified, but he is telling the truth. I'll cooperate. I'll tell them everything I signed. I'll cooperate. It is the first adult thing he has ever done. And Lila, she walks past the sofa where Vivian sits, staring into the middle distance, her mind clearly on frozen bank accounts. She walks past our father, who is moving like a man underwater toward the sound of the police. She walks past all of it. She comes to me, standing in the middle of the room, by my lantern. She doesn't say anything. She just reaches out her shaking hand, and in front of everyone, in front of the guests, the inspector, the pastor, and our parents, she takes my hand. Her fingers are cold, but her grip is strong. It is an anchor. It is a choice. Two sisters, aligned in the only light that mattered. I squeeze her hand once. Go to your room. Lee, stay there. She nods, lets go, and disappears up the staircase, just as the police are escorted into the living room by Helena. I turn to my lantern, my art, my evidence. I unplug the cord and wrap it slowly, meticulously, around the built-in hooks. I press the latches, and the panel of the Honest Harbor closes, the light disappearing, replaced by the dark, mirrored mercury glass. I do not look at the officers. I do not look at my father, who is beginning to speak, his voice choked. I just turn my lantern, and I begin to wheel it toward the door. The crate is heavy, but it rolls silently. The guests are still here. They are frozen, watching me. Mrs. Gable, Janice Albright, Mr. Connolly. They part, a silent, stunned audience, as I push the tall wooden crate past them, through the foyer, and out the front door. I leave with the evidence. I leave with my head high. Outside, the air is a shock. It is clean. The harbor wind is sharp and cold, and it smells of salt and pine, the smell of the real world. It scours the house's perfume, the smell of roasted meat and lies, from my lungs. Snow has begun to fall, not a heavy wet blanket, but dry, small, cleansing flakes. They sting my face and melt on the warm wood of the crate. By the curb, under a streetlight that illuminates the falling snow like a halo, a familiar, battered van is parked. The side door is open. Ari and Helena are waiting. They are not cheering. There are no speeches. There is just presence. Ari holds a large, battered thermos. Helena just watches me, her face impassive, but her eyes, I see, are proud. Ari steps forward as I reach the curb, and his large, calloused hands help me guide the heavy crate up the small ramp and into the van. He secures it with practiced, gentle hands. I stand on the sidewalk for a moment, the snow landing on my shoulders, on my hair. I look back at the house, my father's house. It is no longer a dark, silent monolith. It is ablaze. The red and blue police lights are still flashing, sweeping across the facade. Inside, every light in the house has been turned on. A harsh, sudden, glaring illumination. I look at the new, expensive leaded glass windows, the ones Vivian had installed. In the blaze of the internal lights and the strobe of the police cars, I can see them. The seams, the weaknesses, the repair lines. The windows are fracturing the light, breaking it into 1,000 pieces, like truth finally, violently, admitted. Ari hands me a steaming styrofoam cup, hot chocolate, thick and dark, the kind Helena makes, with too much cocoa and a hint of cinnamon. I take a sip. It is the best thing I have ever tasted. I pull out my phone. The screen is bright in the cold. Dark street. I open my texts. A single thread. Marta Lane. I type one word. Send? I press the button. Across the street, at the church pageant, I know the live stream feed of the metadata, the rolling archive of fraud, has just faded to black. It has been replaced by a simple, static, black and white screen. A statement from counsel, Marta Lane, attorney at law. I get in the van. Ari closes the door. The engine starts. We pull away from the curb. leaving the house and its fractured light behind. At the end of the prayer, they had all said amen. But the light said otherwise. Thank you so much for listening to this story. Please, let me know in the comments where in the world you are listening from. I love to see how far these stories travel and to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and give that hype button a press. It really helps these stories get heard by more people, and it means the world to us.